following the evacuation of the British Army under the command of Sir John Moore from the Iberian Peninsula at Corunna in January 1809, Sir Arthur Wellesley, the later Duke of Wellington, submitted a proposal to Lord Castlereagh, the British Secretary of State for War, regarding the defence of Portugal. Wellesley believed that its mountainous frontiers could be successfully defended against the French, and that Lisbon would be ideal as a main base, as it could be defended by the Royal Navy. The British government approved Wellesley's proposal and appointed him head of the British forces in Portugal. Wellesley set sail for Portugal and arrived in Lisbon on the 22nd of April 1809. He discovered that Marshal Soult's forces were at the Volga River between Coimbra and Porto, while Marshal Victor's forces were at Merida, some 168 miles east of Lisbon. Soult had detached a force under the command of Major General Louis Luzon to clear a Portuguese force under Major General Francois Silveira, which had captured the French garrison at Gervais and had blocked Soult's communications with Spain by blockading the area around Amarante. Wellesley planned to attack Soult before turning to engage Victor. He divided his 36,000 strong British-Portuguese force into three. He left 12,000 men behind to defend Lisbon and placed 6,000 men under the command of William Beresford, with orders to prevent Soult from withdrawing towards Victor. Wellesley then led the remaining 18,000 men northwards to confront Soult. The Anglo-Portuguese army fought a skirmish with the French at the Battle of Graijo on the 11th of May. That night, the French pulled back completely across the River Douro at Porto. On arriving at Porto, Wellesley found that he was unable to cross the River Douro because Soult's army had destroyed the boat bridge and moved all the boats to the northern bank. During the morning of the 12th of May, a British colonel, while reconnoitring the river east of the city, was approached by some Portuguese citizens who led him to a small hidden boat. They then crossed the river and managed to bring back 4 unguarded wine barges from the opposite bank. On receiving this news, Wellesley ordered his men to cross the river using these barges. First to cross was a company of the 3rd Foot, who occupied a walled seminary overlooking the landing site. By the time the French were aware that the British forces were on the north bank, an entire battalion were already deployed there. General Maximilien Foy, who was the first to observe the British army crossing the river, led an attack on the seminary at around 11:30 a.m. with 3 battalions of the 17th Light Infantry. Foy was wounded and his soldiers were beaten back with heavy losses. When reinforced later in the day by 3 more battalions, the French attack was again beaten back, as the British had reinforced their position with 3 more battalions occupying the seminary and the surrounding buildings. Soult then withdrew his troops guarding the boats on the river in order to reinforce Foy. As soon as the French troops left the riverside, the people of Porto immediately took to their boats and helped to ferry more British troops across the river. 4 British battalions were able to cross the river quickly and attack the French from the rear. Being caught in a British crossfire, the French at first began to give way, and then, as their discipline began to waver, they conducted an increasingly hasty withdrawal to the northeast, with some British troops in pursuit. During the Second Battle of Porto, the British lost 125 men, while the French suffered 600 casualties, with 1,800 men captured. In an attempt to cut off the French retreat, the 14th Light Dragoons had been sent across the Douro, 5 miles east of Porto. However, they failed to prevent the majority of the French force from escaping. Meanwhile, Lauzon had failed to clear Cervera's force away from Soult's planned path of retreat to the northeast, resulting in Soult having to abandon all of his equipment and take the footpaths over the hills to the north. Soult's and Lauzon's forces met at Gamarez, but Wellesley's army had continued its pursuit northwards. The British reached Braga before the French, forcing Soult to retreat to the northeast once again. Meanwhile, both Beresford and Cervera were manoeuvring to block Soult's escape route in that direction. However, Soult managed to avoid detection and find a way over the mountains to Orense in Spain. During the retreat from Porto, Soult had lost 4,500 men.